Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm so fired up to have you join us today. We love serving. We'll learn how to serve. You know, our guests are going to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you how to serve. And she's going to talk about kindness, which goes right with service because it goes together like yin and yang. Just made that up. That sounds pretty good. But we're also exploring the idea of taking that servant's heart in your business and life and what kind of impact you'll make. And our guests will bring that to you, different ways they do that. Because if you can make an impact in somebody's life, it will change your life. How, we don't know, but it will make that difference. I want to thank my incredible sponsor, Pantheon. Imagine joining a community of high-income business leaders and successful business owners. We're building this really cool thought leader platform to make an impact not only on your business, but the world. For more information, you can check the show notes. There'll be a link in the show notes, or you can reach out to me to do that. My guest today has got a really cool, I believe it's the nonprofit called BeFriendCows. Caught my eye, was very excited to meet with her, but let's have her come on. Welcome to the show. Preethi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's really nice to meet you and the audience.
Thank you. And say your name again.
Preethi Srinivas.
Preethi Srinivas. I'm going to learn that. That's a tough one for me. BeFriendCows. Cool. I caught my eye. I've been waiting to do this podcast. What does that mean? Talk about that.
Sure. So it's a nonprofit that I currently manage. I founded it. I've been in this space for 5 years now, but it was formally set up and founded only last year. We are on a mission to connect families to sanctuaries. And by that, what I mean is we are trying to awaken connection that is deep within everybody, not only to other humans, but also across species. So right now, our focus has been in like creating spaces that are inviting where people can remember the innate kindness that they have within themselves, not only for themselves, not only for other humans, but also for other animals. And so that's pretty much what the mission is. And when I started, of course, you know, I had my own personal encounter with a rescued animal, and that was like the seed to the beginning of all of this.
Talk more about the animals. This is new for my podcast, 718 shows I've done. Talk about leadership, kindness, empathy. Talk about the animal portion of this.
Sure, yeah. So a lot of times people they co-live with companion animals, right? You know, cats, dogs, and so on. And we kind of call, the term is pets, right? And we tend to build relationships with them. It's almost like, I think the listeners on your show, if they are like a pet parent, they would immediately associate that, hey, he or she is a family member, and they understand, even though they don't speak the language humans speak, but there is something in that nonverbal actions that makes it so easy for people to understand if, let's say, a dog is hungry or a dog is hurting, a human is able to, you know, do something to serve the animal. And it's not always one way, right? It's actually the animal spending more time with the human is much more, and they are much more compassionate because for a human, you have so much more that you are distracted by. A lot of times, if the human is not grounded from within, the amount of information that you have to take care of, especially with the digital world that we are in today, it's a lot, right? And you can sometimes not pay attention to the other beings around you and not be too conscious. Whereas for the animal, the focus the grounding is so deep that they exactly understand who the being is, who's standing in front of them, what is their energy and what are they feeling, and they actually adapt to that energy to a greater extent. Of course, similar to humans, animals have also been through, the animals that have been through a traumatic past, they have a tough time trusting humans, and that is a relationship that requires much more, like work.
Yeah.
But essentially, the way BeFriendCows thinks about this is all beings are unique. They are all same at a foundational level. It's just that our bodies are different. So animals are very much sentient beings because when you look into their eyes, you look at the way they behave, they can feel emotions that humans feel. They are just non-human animals. We are human animals, right?
Yeah.
And in the context of like leading with kindness, there's a very important connection between the inner peace and the impact that a person makes in the outer world, right? So, unless you are able to awaken that inner peace, it's going to be very difficult for you to feel grounded and mindful about what you're doing and how you're participating in this world and how your actions can actually lead to consequences intended and unintended, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, but then to sort of like make that connection, which is very deep, animals can help you, right? They can help you calm down. They can help you slow down in this world where there is so much of noise, so much of buzzing, so much of like digital screen. Spending some time around animals intentionally with no expectations, right? Like you're not going to be with an animal for entertainment. There are venues like that, like petting zoos, for instance, right? You go there, you pay some money, and then it's like you spend meet and greet kind of interaction, and that's still exploitation in some sense, right? Like because you're extracting something out of that interaction. But if you're going to a center or a place of kindness where the animals are free, they can choose to be with you in an interaction. You're not necessarily forcing them for just because you want to go be with them. And you're going there out of your own free will. So it's a very, very volunteer engagement. It's a calm setting. Nobody is being, there are no expectations from either of those beings, just presence and stillness. And that can really slow down and provide a lot of purpose to the beings that we all house in our bodies. And that's
Yeah.
how the connection is. And we try to hold like workshops, field trips to sanctuaries, and we try to partner with sanctuaries to make it so that it's the animals are not exploited, and the human also is going there to serve, in the sense that yes, they get to spend some time with the animal, but they're also going there to volunteer and provide like hands-on help, and they understand the science behind that form of interaction. And of course, there are also other things that people can learn, which is how does all of this align with our daily choices, right? So we are consuming everything in this world, like right from eating to wearing to every other product that we use today. So it's very important for us to question: I'm consuming something today. What does that mean? Like, what are the ingredients of that? Where is it coming from, and what does that mean for the planet? What does that mean for the people who created that product, right? So all of those questions start to pop up in your mind, and then you start to become more conscious as a consumer because you start to question, do I really need this? What's the
Yeah.
alternative? And how can I be more kinder to the world? And in return, you're actually kinder to your body and yourself, because any product that has come out of exploitation is not going to be kind to your body,
Yeah.
because our body is connected with the planet. I think many of your viewers may be familiar with this, which is the outer environment is very, very similar to the inner microbiome, right? So the earth that we are in, the biodiversity of the earth needs to thrive. And if that does not thrive, then whatever is in your gut is not going to thrive. And that's why a lot of people tend to have diseases, and like depending on what you consume, not only as food but also what you watch, what you hear, what you smell, what you touch, all of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. You'll
all
be,
quite connected.
and she's an expert. She works in the tech field. I won't say where, but she's been with the tech, so she understands that. So what I'm hearing, leaders and entrepreneurs, especially, this allows them to learn to be more kind. So when the benefit to them in their businesses, they're kinder to prospects, clients, partners, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, and also the employees, right? So if you think about it,
Employees.
let's say, for instance, you're manufacturing some product, right? The sources that you're gathering to manufacture that product, we have to start questioning how were their sources obtained, right? And who got them? What process was used? Is it naturally provided by the earth? And how much are we actually abusing the earth, right? So if it is too much of an abuse, we have to step back and question why are we doing it? And the people who are employed, right, like if you're doing this in a factory setting, or if you have like large number of employees, is it fair and ethical, right? Like how are they employed? Are they having the right kind of working condition and so on, right? And then let's say you got the product, you're shipping it, what is the carbon footprint involved, right? Like, how are you actually shipping it? Where is it going? And the consumer who is actually going to get it finally, right? They have to think like, what am I going to do with this product, right? Is it actually certified to be organic? How much of a sustainability is present in this product? And how much of an impact is this product making on the overall planet? And this is outside world. Now let's think about the inside, right? When I'm consuming this product, what impact is it going to have on me as an individual, right? So all of that are kind of connected, right? So in terms of like entrepreneurs, like you are starting to think about not just your own organization, but everybody else who's involved, and it's a network, right? And by
Yep.
doing good to yourself, you're also doing good to others. And when you tie those two together, the planet will thrive.
Yeah, it's great formula. That leads us to your book, The Sacred Bond. I think
Yeah.
this ties in. Talk about the book, and I think you have a personal story from your book as well.
Yeah, the Sacred Bond. I published that in 2022. It was really not like I didn't um intend for it to like reach a lot of audience, right? So one thing that happened was, and I think I could maybe share a little bit of the backstory to this. I did have an emotional encounter with a rescued bull at a sanctuary in California. And post that emotional encounter, I had to give some more background to the audience, I'm originally from India, right? So I moved to the US for higher education. And in India, back then, you could actually see bovine animals walking in the streets. Like you can see a cow or a bull in the middle of the street. Today, it may not be too much of a sight, even though you may see some of that if you visited the country. But even when I was a child, I have grown up seeing them in the street, but I've never really had that one-on-one encounter with an animal, right? And in my house, we never really cared for a companion animal. And so whatever interaction I've had was always been like at a friend's place. If they have a companion animal, I would ask them, hey, can I actually get closer to the animal and, spend some time with the animal? But beyond that, it's never been like any deeper connection. But the rescued bull that I met here, it was at a time when I was not doing so well in life. And I was really seeking for some form of spiritual guidance. And when I entered the space of the animal, this is something that is very interesting because sometimes we assume that we are welcome in everybody's space, right? So when we get closer to another being, there is some amount of energy transfer that happens, right? Sometimes you feel repulsed, you feel like, okay, something is off with the conversation I'm having with this person. That's very true in the context of human animal interaction as well, right? The good news is that animals are most often welcoming. So they will welcome you into their space. There are times when they would ask you to step away using their behavior, right? If the animal happens to be a dog, he or she will bark, right? If the animal happens to be like a large size mammal like cow, for instance, they will butt you. They'll shake their head and they're like, just go away, stay away from me. And that is a clear signal for us that okay, we need to step away. But interestingly, this bull welcomed me into his space, and the way he looked at me felt like a warm blanket, right? And when I looked into his eyes, that's when I realized some of my questions were being answered. And of course, that first encounter lasted only for a few minutes, right? So I was of course curious. I kept going back to the sanctuary, and over a period of time, I started to participate in the activities that happened at the sanctuary. So I started to offer hands-on help and volunteer. And through service, I started to build a relationship with this bull as much as he was building a relationship with me, right? Because we understood that there were days when I am overwhelmed, he would actually just stay calm and he would sit beside me, and his breathing would actually help me calm down. And then the days when he is not in the right mood, because he has had a traumatic past too, because he's a rescued bull. And the days that I recognize that something is off, I don't necessarily disturb him. I just sit beside him if he allows me to sit beside him, or I just let him be until, he's ready to have that interaction with a human. And so what that did was it got me more curious, and I started to travel. And while traveling, I made it an intention to try and see if there were other sanctuaries across the country, or wherever I travel to, and I would go talk to people. Interestingly, the universe put me on a path where I actually encountered more people with similar experiences, right? So they would have had some accidental encounter with an animal, and the animal may have been not in a good position. Probably they were, going to be killed in a few days, or they were injured, and the human would do something out of their way, because it is just that it is a very, very innate feeling in all beings that you cannot see another being suffer. Right? It's very, very innate feeling, no matter who you are, where you are in your life or your journey. So the human would do something to take care of the animal, and then eventually the life of the animal will change, life of the human will change as well. And that's what became the sacred bond, right? So when I came to, like, when I had 12 stories, I was like, why don't I actually share this with the world? Because this is so inspirational. And these stories were from people from across the globe. Right. And that's
Yeah.
how the first book came out. It was really just short stories. What of course, after publishing, I had this afterthought, which was like, I probably published too early. So now I'm taking that and I'm republishing it, because one thing I learned was that while these heartfelt narratives are great, it takes only people halfway there, right? They are great and they are inspirational, but then if I can back them up with evidence-based insights on like why it matters, I think that can be a more wholesome contribution, and that's what I'm working on now, but with more stories, right? Hopefully,
Yeah.
it will launch soon. But I guess after that publishing, I went on to publish few other books, and I started to get into this realm where it's actually not only adults, it's children. And that's where I think it started to get much more interesting, because children by nature, they are all empathetic, right? And I'm sure a lot of listeners on your call, they may be parents, right? And one thing that I've often heard parents and even educators share with me is they are actively looking for ways to improve child development. The one problem that in the world that we are today is there's a lot of climate anxiety, there's a lot of conflict, confusion, and disconnection. And a lot of this is because when children are growing up, we tell them, please say, please, thank you, share your toy, be kind to your friends. But when it comes to consumption, we we are teaching them to see some things and ignore the other things. And one
Got it.
example is, they may grow up watching like fuzzy cartoons of like, chickens and cows wearing aprons. And, it's a nice cartoon they watch. But somehow, as time goes by, as they grow up, these beings end up becoming their food. And the problem is, what we are doing is we are excluding these animals from their compassion circle. And by doing that, we are introducing a disconnection to their life, which kind of follows them all the way to their adulthood.
Yeah.
Right. So we are telling them that some lives matter less. And that becomes a problem, because when you think about it, if there are certain animals that we consider as food or products, and then there are some other animals which we think can be our family members, then a child is going to have a tough time building empathy, or understanding that aggression is not the right thing, and or even understanding what is pro-social behavior. And I think when I got into that space, that's when I started to think more deeply. And I was like, hey, Befriend Cows actually has to be more than what it was, even like 2, 3 years ago, where the focus was mostly on adults. But now the focus is like, actually, it's adults, but more than that, it's actually children. Because when a child spends time with a rescued animal, the child is able to empathize better. They are able to feel less anxious. They're able to find that connection to another being. They're able to learn how to take perspectives and how to take on tasks, how to take on responsibilities. And these are things that they don't need to learn in a classroom with some form of grading system or a lesson plan. These are things that they can learn from outside world by visiting
Experiences.
animal
Yep.
sanctuaries and building that respect for other beings.
Yeah. We're coming to the end here. What does the future look like for Befriend Cows?
Well, so I mean, I do have a few other books here. So, for folks interested, do check out the website. You will see that some of these books, they are for different age groups. We try to target a culturally diverse audience as well. We try to do workshops. So more of education for sure, not only for children, but also for young adults. But in addition to that, one of the things that we are doing aside from that is we are also trying to help animals in need, right? So there are a lot of animal welfare nonprofits. A lot of them are grassroots, right? They may not have this huge backing or a foundation to support the work that they are doing, but they are doing incredible work, right? So they also do a lot of education. They try to rescue animals who need, the care and home, and we try to support them that way. And one other thing is, because I work in technology field, we are trying to build technology to help support animal welfare. And so I guess the future is more of education and more of kindness. I guess the awakening,
Yeah.
and also just conversations on wellness overall, right? So how all of these are connected.
This is important, especially in business and interaction with people. You've nailed it. Let's end with a fun question. I always like to ask my guest. So you get a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. You're sitting in one of the chairs, and the other 3 empty chairs, who would you invite to talk to, dead or alive? And what food would you order? Food I probably can guess, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, well, the food, of course, will have to be like plant-based, right? So, and it has to be ethically sourced. And in terms of who I would invite, definitely a divine being, right? So for sure, I would want to invite a divine being so the being can teach us to live again. I think with everything that we have done with the civilization, um, and again, I don't want to make it sound like there's no hope for the world, right? That's not true at all. It's just that we need to turn on the switch, right?
Yeah.
So but the divine being can show us a path. There's so much of there's so many different beliefs and faith systems and uh,
Yeah.
different practices, and there are a lot of things that are handed down generation after generation, right? So it can we actually get to some form of consensus? And for that, if a divine being can help facilitate that kind of conversation, I think that'll be great. And aside from that, I think I would definitely want to invite, like, like an animal welfare activists. There's way too many people, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just do the whole group. Yeah.
Yes,
We'll bring
and
them as a one whole.
yeah, and it's an extreme, right? So there is a huge spectrum between welfare and animal rights, right? So we need to find that balance and do what is right for animals and for humans. And for that, I think I would want to have a conversation with them, and of course, the leaders of the world, right? Because we are thinking about economy, and we're thinking about like empowerment of the rural, community, health, wellness. There's so many different factors, and folks from the UN are thinking about sustainability goals. But if you look at the sustainability goals, there's actually no mention of animal rights or animal welfare in it. So I would definitely want to invite someone, some from the leadership to sort of like understand why what's going on,
Yeah. Take care of
and
business. I
and
love it.
and convince them, right? And somehow try and convince them that, hey, this will help the world to live with kindness and try.
Yeah. Well, you're a blessing. God bless what you're doing. It's definitely a great goal. How can people can reach out to you? People listening want to connect with you.
Definitely check out the website. It is befriendcows.org. They can sign up for the newsletter. They'll keep receiving updates. There's also a way to contact me from the website. I am on social media as well, Instagram and YouTube. Definitely check out what we are doing there, and feel free to reach out.
Thank you again, Preethi. Audience, that'll all be in the show notes, or reach out to me. I'll make sure you connect with her, especially an animal lover. I'm a dog lover. So she's making my heart sing what she's talking about, because they are unconditional love and they can make a big difference in your life. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this is a perfect example of a gift. What's that look like or sound like? You're listening to this going, my friend needs help, needs to be more kind. And this is a perfect person, Preethi, for them to listen to and see the connection with animals. So share those links off as you subscribe. And just on my podcast, any other podcast you're listening to, again, those are all potential gifts that you can make. Will bring it full circle again and impact in somebody's life. So go ahead and do that. Me and Preethi want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this great podcast. We'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.